What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video from Pink Tourmaline. My name is Huzefa, and there's another video that I wanted to make today that has to do with my exploration of multiple mainstream religions. This is through a general text that I picked up that covers the 12 major mainstream religions across the planet, including Taoism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, etc. And I did feel as though, since I'm starting this channel asking big spiritual, general existence questions, that it made sense to some extent to dive into what most people go to when they're trying to understand things outside of this life, where we go, how to live our lives, philosophical questions, as well as really scientific questions about what is existence truly. And my original thought was that I was going to have to dive into particular systems of faith and religions to have meaningful discussions about what this is all about. Why are we here? What's the purpose? What's our individual objectives on this planet? How do we best achieve them? I actually think, upon further reflection, that this channel is not going to cover much about existing mainstream religions, and this video is going to explain why. And in particular, I'm going to go through a number of reasons where I'm going to talk about why mainstream religions, at least for my intents and purposes, don't resonate with me. And I'm going to go over these reasons, and then I'm going to kind of leave it alone, because I don't want this channel to be a debate channel. I don't want to be trying to break down and attack other people's faiths or religions if they feel deeply connected to them, and especially if there's an emotional attachment and this would stir up negative emotions for people. That's not what I want this to be about. I want this to be about a wholehearted, honest, open exploration of many pieces of, I think, valid evidence and testimonies that are out there to try and get to some of these deeper questions and really get to some good answers. And for the people that this doesn't resonate with, that's all good. This is just for those people like me who are seeking answers and who weren't satisfied with what was out there, then started hearing about near-death experiences, started hearing about other accounts of why we're here, why we come into this physical realm, why we then exit, what's the purpose, what's the point. And that's what I want to focus on, because I think that's my true nature, is not to sit here and debate and argue. That's not in my personality. I did go to law school. I was an attorney, but I transitioned out of law after 4 years. And that's partially why I was a litigator. This is not why I was brought to this planet. I don't believe I'm not somebody that enjoys conflict or enjoys debate or anything like that. I just want to learn and enjoy my life and have fun and spread messages of positivity. So that's what this is going to be about. Now, I'm going to go through these reasons, and just to give you guys some context as to why, or some of the reasons why I'm looking elsewhere and much deeper beyond the scope of what we consider maybe to be the 12 major religions or other fractions thereof. And then we're going to continue on our merry way. And if this video resonates with you guys as well, then this channel might be a place for you. And if not, I totally understand as well. Now, let's get into it. So I cited 4 reasons that I want to talk about briefly. I'm still going to finish reading this book on religion, by the way. I'm just entered the chapter on Taoism. But let's look at the heart of most of these religions. Most mainstream religions are built upon stories. Okay, this includes the ancient Roman religions, ancient Greece religions, ancient Egyptian religions is also covered in this text as well. And it ends up being a collection of stories that maybe tell things that happened in the past, and then you can draw upon those to learn lessons, which is obviously great. People learn via stories better than any other tool, any other method. We talk about, there's a book I read a long time ago, The Art of Storytelling. I mean, this is the way that you can explain information very rapidly to other people. So it's a huge vehicle for transferring information. But the thing is, when we're trying to build these core tenets, and on top of that, people get so rigid about religion and adherence to it the right way, and what is the right way. And it's always struck me as a little bit illogical to think that, well, if these are stories that are widely open to interpretation, then how can this be core fundamental pieces of a blueprint in which to live, in which to carry out your life, especially when they're widely open to interpretation. What makes way more sense to me is the stories can be a piece of the fabric, and we can learn and interpret from them. But for it to be the only thing out there to give spiritual guidance, to give some sort of a moral compass, especially because most of these religions are like, you got to buy into this alone and everything else must be excluded. It just never resonated with me, and doesn't make sense to me. This is exactly why me growing up in the Muslim faith, I was always looking outwards and trying to just constantly contemplating and thinking about life and why we're here. And because the answers provided therein, at least the way it's presented and via stories and via written text from 1500 years ago, without any evolution or modification or change, it just never seemed like the answer. It just never seemed like the way for me. All right, so this is reason number one. Now we're going to go on to reason number two. Many of the practices and principles that we're pulling out and extracting from these old texts, they're again texts that have gone through multiple translations. Now, maybe that's not the case in terms of the Quran, but again, if you look at I just read this section last night. If you look at how and by the way, if I'm getting stuff wrong here, I'm really not trying to be offensive. I mean, again, this is my family is Muslim. This is the faith that I was raised in, so I'm trying to give it the utmost respect here. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, if you're seeing this and it's getting you heated, but my understanding is the prophet went up, had the words dictated to him by the angel Gabriel, and then he then had it transcribed by somebody else later on. I can't remember the name of the individual who wrote everything down. And then there was also the hadiths, I believe, that were written down later on. My point is we have these, and that's probably like, there is no real translation there, so we have to give credit where credit's due. But if you look at, for example, the biblical text, originally written in different languages, and then over the centuries, millennia, it's been translated to different languages. But then it's like we have these multiple translations now translated to the King James version of the Bible in English, but then people latch onto these particulars of the words and are such diehard literalists, if you will, in terms of the literal statements of the text. Like, that just never made sense to me either. Now, I think, like, I've heard some people, I know some people might think, well, yes, the translations were guided by the hand of God. You say something like that, right? I don't know, maybe it's possible, but it never resonated with me. It never made me feel as though that made a lot of sense to me in terms of, okay, well, that's a reasonable explanation. It just, looking at it strictly through a lens of logic, without any other preconceived notions or biases, or thinking about what faith is my family, what faith is everybody, excluding all of that, just literally, does this make sense or not? It just never hit that mark for me. So that's my second reason. My third reason why these don't resonate with me, it's very interesting. It's like religions as we seem to have them on this planet, for whatever reason, people have decided that they are closed systems. These are the texts for the Christian religion. This is all there is. We're not adding anything new. We're not looking at other connections now people are making or saying they're making with the divine, and that's it. It's a closed system. It's not like that anything else. In anything else, we're learning, we're growing, we're extracting new information, we're modifying things. But it's like in this particular area, it's as though whatever was gotten at this one specific time, that's it. It's never going to change. And by the way that this information was drawn out was usually through a singular person having a connection to the divine, receiving a message, reciting it, and then boom. That's happening today. That's happening all the time with near-death experiences, with other people going into deep states of meditation, extracting messages. But we just ignore all of that, but then somehow cling to these old accounts and old eyewitness testimonies from so long ago, but then just say everything else is people that are misremembering things, or it's not real, or, well, then how do we know that the stuff in the past was real? So you understand. And again, I'm just telling you this. I'm not trying to this is not to convince anybody or change anybody's opinion, because at the end of the day, I actually don't think it really matters that much. If being a Christian or being a Muslim or being whatever faith you want to be in makes you feel good and helps you lead a positive life. And I think we all universally understand what a positive life is: being kind to other people, helping people, these core basics, the golden rule. Then I'm all for it. I actually don't think the component of knowing the actual reality of what's happening on the planet, in the beyond the planet, in the light realm, and whatever you want to call it, outside of this, I don't think it really matters. I think our specific objectives on this planet have much more to do with achieving individual and personal growth through struggle, through pain, through different events that maybe some were somewhat predetermined in terms of the challenges that we were meant to face, specifically set up for where our souls could grow, where we can improve. Anyways, so this is another thing that doesn't resonate with me. Instead, I would love to listen to everything and interpret things and not say, nope, this is it. I've made my mind up and I'm done. Let's hear what other people are having to say, especially when a lot of these messages that we're getting, or these stories that we're hearing from near-death experiences, to me on a logic level makes so much more sense. The way that they describe why we come into existence, what is the whole purpose of existing and incarnating and passing away, and how we can evolve and grow spiritually and essentially level up. These narratives make a ton more sense to me than a lot of the religious narratives, or the mainstream religious narratives. Here's point number 4. This is a big thing, okay? This is in a lot of religions, definitely not all. And I'm going to talk about one religion in particular that I read about last night as well, that this is not a part of. And it actually, if there's one religion that, as I'm reading right now, that seems to resonate with me most, and also seems to have connections with things that we're hearing from near-death experiences, is Hinduism, but we're going to talk about that in a second. But if you look at, by the way, if there are religious scholars listening and I'm saying anything that's incorrect, please let me know and please correct me. But this idea of we're coming into a singular life, it's a big test. If you pass the test, you get to paradise. So it's this essentially binary decision. You're either going to paradise or ultimate suffering. And the ultimate suffering is forever. I thought this when I was a kid. That the concept of a singular finite life then leading to a potential eternal punishment, it just made no sense. And I don't even think people don't really understand what punishment and torment forever means. People don't really understand from a mathematical standpoint what infinity means. I don't think anybody can really get their mind around it, but just to be stuck in that state for all existence, it just, look, and I could be wrong, but like on a fundamental logical level, I could just never get my head around this notion that us as energy beings, as light beings, as living, breathing creatures would be created to have this blip of a existence to then be punished eternally. It's just so out of proportion. It's so out of balance with this very short finite existence to infinity that it's like, if you remember limits in calculus, okay, the limit as 1 over x, as x goes to infinity, let's say, right? What we're talking about is in mathematics and calculus, that 1 just stays there. X goes off to infinity. And what happens is it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The value essentially, as the limit approaches infinity of x, essentially the value of that expression 1 over x goes to 0. It's as if the life is meaningless. It's nothing. It's a 0 in the scope of infinity, of eternity. Because that's essentially what more or less happens when you're zooming off to infinity, zooming off to eternity. So to me, that never logically made sense, mathematically made sense. And so I can't get my head around any type of philosophy or way of thinking or religious teachings that would include such a thing. And it's not just because I don't like it and it's scary. It just fundamentally doesn't make sense. And I'm not saying that because I'm afraid of it and therefore I choose not to buy it. It just doesn't make sense to me. It never had, even when I was a kid, never made sense. The credit to the Hindu religion is that what they talk about instead is they talk about temporary realms of punishment. That can make sense to me because, again, even if you look at incarnation on earth, they have a section on Buddhism where the Buddha taught that life is suffering. These periods of temporary suffering for the purpose of growth and evolution and improvement, That makes a lot of sense to me. Also, the idea of multiple of reincarnations makes a lot of sense to me, and that also conforms to many things that have been said in near death experiences. So many of them have talked about the previous lives that they've led, sometimes even getting to see previous lives, and each one has a learning purpose as opposed to a singular test, not just to see, do you make the mark to go into paradise, or do you fail and have to be, no, it's not that. It's for us, and it's something that we want to incarnate for, agree to the suffering, agree to the trials and tribulations for our own purpose, our own fulfillment, and our own improvement. So that makes way more sense to me. And again, I'm not just saying this in a vacuum of logic. I'm also saying this because this is what seems to be told time and again and again and again and again from near death experiences that are happening today with people that are still alive, that can tell you verbatim what happened to them, what they remembered, and what message they were allowed to carry back and share. So those are my reasons as to why I'm going to stop sharing, as to why when we're asking this question and trying to get answers, why those modes of explanation don't resonate with me. And I'm going to try not to focus on them very much on this channel, maybe to some extent when it's relevant or pertinent. But I don't want this to be a focus of the channel, especially for people that are feeling offended in some way. As I'm saying, no, I don't buy into this. It's okay if you buy into it, no problem. But those are the reasons why I don't. And if that resonates with you, this channel might be for you. That's all I got to say. Anyways, we will continue forward. I'm going to be posting more and more. I'm so excited. I'm getting more inspired. I built in a habit now where I take a bath every night and read. So I'm reading way more than I was before, just having my busy day and going to bed. Now I'm trying to read every single night, so I have more information, more things to talk about on the regular. So hopefully that's going to lead to way more content. And we're going to go on this journey together, everybody. And hopefully this is going to be beneficial and enlightening for all of you who also are seeking answers about why we are here, just like me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.